How the rich are always getting richer. It is a common phrase heard around the financial world. People in the middle and lower classes always seem to complain how the top 1% of wealth is hoarding 99% of the wealth in the economy. This disproportionate distribution of wealth is the main reason why the Democratic Party has such a large following. However, it is easy to complain that the wealthy have all the money. But what if we stop and think, how are the rich getting richer? Would that open the door to allow us to achieve wealth ourselves? Hi, I'm Anthony McLemore and welcome to the Centennial Investor. On this channel, we talk about investing, real estate, and overall the steps necessary to achieve financial freedom. Robert Kiyosaki, a best-selling author and successful entrepreneur, talked about why the rich get richer in one of his most impactful books called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This is one of the most motivational books I have ever read in my young life. Since writing Rich Dad, Poor Dad years ago, Kiyosaki has paved the way for thousands upon thousands of entrepreneurs to break out of the rat race and achieve wealth themselves. So let's talk about Rich Dad, Poor Dad a little bit. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a life-changing novel that goes over how Robert Kiyosaki was able to change his mindset at a young age and start to become financially literate. He did this through the teaching of his rich dad that came in the form of one of his friend's father. His rich dad taught him many lessons, but one of the most important was this: the rich don't work for money. If you decide to take away only one thing from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, let it be this. Let this concept sink in your head, and you must fully understand this concept to understand anything that Kiyosaki is talking about. I'm going to say it again slowly.
The rich don't work for money.
That concept, as I will explain in more detail later in this video, is the basic reason why poor people stay poor, the middle class don't have any money, and the rich keep getting richer. Let's take a look at each wealth class to see if any of these examples hit home for you. People who are living in or below the poverty line in the United States are not always seen as the most financially literate. And even if they are, they more than likely don't care much about saving or investing money for the future. Kiyosaki classifies someone as being a part of the poor class if they are stuck in a rat race and living below the poverty line. They are simply trying to get to the next paycheck without going hungry. This leads them to making irrational financial decisions that further entrenches them in the rat race. A rat race is an endless, self-defeating, and pointless pursuit. Something that summarizes perfectly would be this: you get paid, you spend all your money on things, you go broke, and then you wait to get paid again. And this devastating cycle just keeps going on and on and on
and on and on and on and on and on and on again.
You're never really making any progress towards financial freedom. This irrational behavior regarding money is the reason why Kiyosaki defines poor people as being poor because they buy stuff. Poor people, as classified by Kiyosaki, don't buy fancy cars or big houses or anything that costs a substantial sum of money, unless of course they take out a high interest loan. But from month to month, poor people just simply accumulate stuff. These things don't have a lot of intrinsic value and just tend to clutter up the homes of the poverty stricken. There are usually just one-time payments and can be things like buying shoes, buying TVs, buying a whole bunch of car washers, or just anything that has no real value to the person who owns them or can provide no real cash flow. Poor people are usually characterized as not being well financial planners, and they simply live paycheck to paycheck because they don't know how to go about living any other way. They live their lives by active income, which means if they don't work, they don't get paid. Simple as that. When it is time for them to retire, they rely on Social Security and other government services to bail them out. And the biggest thing about this lifestyle is that you can be right in the middle of it and not even know it. This is because when we usually think about poor people, our mind goes immediately to homeless people living under a bridge, when that is not truly an accurate representation of what the poor mindset is like. Homeless people are an extreme case of poor people, but being in a poor class has a broader range than you might think. With an understanding of how the poor view finances, let's move on to what the middle class does with their money. People who are living in the middle class of the American economy can look a variety of different ways, but the majority of them tend to have the same mindset as everybody else. Like the poor, the people in the middle class may not even know that they are in the middle class because they can very well feel like they are wealthy. One of the main reasons for this is that the middle class just look the part. They have the nice houses, they have the fancy cars, they have the high-paying jobs with the big bonuses, but they are still in the middle class for one big reason. And this reason is pretty easy to explain once you think about it. The main reason why the middle class aren't seen as truly wealthy is because middle class people accumulate liabilities. For those who don't really have an accounting background, I'll go over what assets and liabilities are. are. Assets are anything that you own of value. This can be your house, car, personal items, anything of that sort. Liabilities are any debts that you own. This is the mortgage on your house, your auto loan, the credit cards you have, things of that sort. Robert Kiyosaki has a slightly different definition of what assets and liabilities are. He defines assets as anything that you own that brings in cash flow. This could be things like rental properties, real estate in general, stocks that you own, or anything that brings in passive income like a business. And Kiyosaki defines a liability as any recurring expense. This could be something as simple as Netflix, because it is something that takes money out of your pocket every single month. It is so difficult to distinguish the middle class from the wealthy is that the middle class, they just look so wealthy. From the outside looking in, you would never think that these people were living paycheck to paycheck, but they really actually are. This is because the middle class also have the wrong mindset about money. While they have the skills necessary to acquire a high-paying job, once they get that high-paying job, their expenses tend to rise up to their pay level. So when they get a bigger raise, they also acquire more expenses. This can be explained pretty simply like this. Imagine I'm at a high-paying job making $100,000 a year. I have a nice car, have a nice house, I'm pretty much living the lifestyle that I want to live. But at the end of the day, there's always that one house that I wanted to spend the summers with my family. So I go about working hard for a year or two or maybe 5 years and I get a $50,000 raise. Instead of investing that $50,000 raise, what I do is I go and make a down payment on $1 million lake house. And then for the next 30 years, I make payments on that lake house in order to have it for summers with my family. Now this may be an extreme example, but this is a perfect situation of how the middle class treat their money. They make a lot of money, but their expenses also rise to the money that they're making. This means that they're never really truly making any progress towards financial freedom or building any sort of passive income. I do believe that the middle class are more financially literate because they simply have the skills necessary that request more money. But at the end of the day, they are still using active income to fund their lifestyles. Middle class people never truly have any sort of assets that bring in passive income so that one day if they are not working, then the assets could still pay their expenses for them. They are still living much like the poor, paycheck to paycheck, because if they don't get paid, then they won't be able to pay their bills. Now for the part we've all been waiting on. Let's take a look at how the wealthy treat their money. What makes the wealthy actually wealthy is not the amount of money that they have in their bank account. More, it's about how they treat their money once it already is in their bank account. Kiyosaki loves this quote. It's not about how much money you make, but how much money you keep, how hard it works for you, and how many generations you keep it for. This is essentially saying that in order to be wealthy, in order to not have to work for money, you have to make your money work for you. The wealthy are famous for their keen sense in accumulating assets. As I mentioned earlier, assets, as defined by Robert Kiyosaki, is anything that you own that provides cash flow, otherwise known as passive income. The wealthy use the money from their income today to invest for a better future tomorrow. They are not concerned with how they look to their peers. The wealthy are more concerned with accumulating money over time and also having their money accumulate money for them. They don't go and buy things, and they especially don't go accumulate liabilities. To the wealthy, a liability is the exact opposite of what you want to be accumulated in order to reach financial freedom, because it actually reduces your net worth and pushes you backward on your journey. This is different than taking out a loan in order to leverage your money for an investment property. This is what is known as using other people's money to reach financial freedom, and that is something that I will talk about in a later video. Going back to the rich are focused on increasing their passive income each month or each year. For those who need a refresher on what exactly passive income is defined as an income where active work is no longer necessary for you to keep receiving money. This can be in the form of stock dividends, rental property payments, a business that you have started like an online course or a blog, or other interest-bearing accounts that pay you after you've already done the work up front for them. Passive income is like the gift that keeps on giving. Let's take a look at what makes this mindset so unique. Just as a poor person would go and buy a new pair of Jordans for $220 or a brand new iPhone for $999, a wealthy person would take that same $220 or $999 and invest it in assets that will provide cash flow for them. Over time, these assets will provide that cash flow for them, and they will also begin compounding in value. If you were to accumulate enough of these assets, you could potentially replace your entire 9-to-5 salary. Let's take a quick look at a rudimentary example. Starting out with $1,000 as an upfront investment, and let's say you leave that $1,000 in an investment account that earns about 7 to 8% interest every year. In about 20 years, and through the help of compound interest, you will have over $7,000. That is a huge increase in the amount of money you have and your overall net worth in percentage gains. Now, I know a $6,000 profit over 20 years is really nothing to be excited about. But let's say instead of $1,000 over 20 years, you do $1,000 every 1 to 2 months in these same assets. And then the money that you're putting in are also growing at the same rate. At this rate, the compounding of the $1,000 that you put in will soon outpace your monthly contribution. And then after 20 years, you will have more money than you ever thought imaginable. All of this takes is consistent discipline in order to accumulate the assets that can make money for you. Now, how attractive does that brand new iPhone look? In summary, the reason why the rich continue to get richer is because they have the knowledge to accumulate assets and not liabilities or things. It is not some kind of secret society that the government is trying to hide from us. It is just basic financial knowledge that allows them to use the forces of compound interest to work in their favor. If you want to get on this road to the elite as well, you simply must start accumulating assets. Let's do a quick overview of what I talked about in this video. First, the poor accumulate things. The poor live paycheck to paycheck mostly because they have no other choice. Most of the people in this group need to try to find a higher income before they can start accumulating assets. But I think the best way in order to increase the amount of money that you have to buy assets would be to decrease the expenses that you have per month so that your expenses are lower than your income. You can then use the difference that you have, the surplus even, to begin to accumulate assets. Second, the middle class accumulate liabilities. The middle class accumulates mortgages, auto loans, credit card debt, everything that makes them seem like they are wealthy to someone who's on the outside looking in. But someone who has true access to their balance sheet can see that they are living paycheck to paycheck as well. They use most, if not all, of their money every single year without having any money to show for passive income asset gains. I cannot say that anything is wrong with this way of thinking. It is just not the best recipe for building long-term wealth and being the most efficient with your money. And lastly, the wealthy accumulate assets. The rich always find ways to make their money work for them. And as the first page of Rich Dad Poor Dad says, the rich don't work for money. If you like this video and you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and it lets me know personally that you like seeing content like this. This pretty much wraps up my first week here on YouTube. So if you like my content or you have any suggestions to make my content better, just leave a comment down below and I'll comment back to you personally. Thanks for watching. Peace. It is just basic financial knowledge that allows them to use. It is just basic compound knowledge. It is just basic financial knowledge that allows them. It is just